Okay, I think it's going. Okay, so my name is Eric Turway. It's Tuesday. It's 7:30, which means it's time for us to have another live stream, uh, little town hall, if you will, here for Oklahoma's second congressional district. I, of course, am running for Congress in this district. I am a progressive Democrat running here, and a lot of people have been asking lately, Eric, can a progressive win in Oklahoma? And the answer is we're winning everywhere. And when you ask voters directly in Oklahoma, we're one of those great states where we can do a voter referendum. When we ask the voters directly to vote on things like Medicaid expansion, medical marijuana and stuff like that, we always do it. We always say yes. And so we have progressive hearts. We are the kind of people who care about each other. And so, yeah, I absolutely believe that progressives can win here. So, yeah, absolutely. We're not just running this race to, like we've said before, we're not running this race to move the needle. We're not running the race to move our current representative to the middle. We're running this race to move him back to Oklahoma, fire him from Congress, and replace him with someone who understands the needs of real working Americans. So every week we get together, you guys get to ask me questions. I will answer as best I can. So just make sure that you put your questions and your comments down below, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. I do want to make sure I've got my chat pulled up on the other one. Do forgive me. This is only the second week that we've had this new program, and here we go. Leah says, "Hey," and now I can see it. Thank you. All right, so let me just make sure. Yeah, so we're not running this race to implement Sharia law. I don't know who told you that, but definitely not. Uh, you know, I believe in a nice secular democracy where everybody can, worship as they see fit. Just like our Constitution lays out. So we always talk about some big things together. The biggest one, this week, of course, is still the war in Iran, but also the political violence in Washington, D.C. We saw that again at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Um, and here's what's very frustrating about that. First, political violence is wrong. We shouldn't be doing that. And I think that if we had more mental health services in this country, these people could get the help they needed. Second, we have had, only a handful of pretty public potential, attempted assassinations on our presidents in the last 20 years. But we have had thousands of school shootings with hundreds of students getting shot in schools. And it seems like every time we have a political incident, everyone brings a lot of attention to this issue, which it should have attention. But why aren't we fixing this when our kids are getting slaughtered in elementary schools? Like, why is the life of an 80-year-old man with a whole chain of succession, why is he so much more important than a potential future president of this country? I'm very frustrated that we keep getting to this point over and over and over again because of inaction. And I hope we take action this time. We need sensible gun laws in this country. We need to make sure that guns don't fall into the wrong hands. We need to be doing background checks. And these are things that most Americans agree on. And there's no reason we can't have that stuff. If only Congress would just be responsive to the people they represented, right? Um, all right, so um, you're a Republican, I'm a Democrat, but we can agree on things, like I bet you agree that prices are higher than they should be. I bet you agree that we shouldn't be spending billions and billions abroad when we have so many issues that we need to address at home. I think it's time we kind of start to move past this labeling of politics and start just saying, like, hey, I'm an American who just wants really good things for my neighbors. Because I think that that's what makes this country really great, right? That's what's made us great throughout history. We've always been that place people wanted to go because of opportunity, because of generosity. There is an American spirit. We can't deny that. And it's infectious. And it comes from this collaboration we have as a nation. You have an individual drive, but it contributes to a much broader society. Yeah, I'm a patriot. That's why I fight too. Absolutely. I love my country. I love my state. There are a lot of people I know from Oklahoma who have just said, you know what, I'm done. And they left for bluer pastures, if you will. But I love Oklahoma. I love my state. I love being here with my family. I love being around what's familiar to me. And I think it's worth fighting for. Thoughts on Israel? That's a really great question. I really believe that Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal who has perpetrated war crimes. He is trying to commit genocide. He has attacked so many of his neighbors. He's trying to do exactly what he did in Gaza, in Lebanon. When it comes to Israel, I think that we just need to stop funding their military for a while. Let them stand on their own feet. They have universal health care. They have a GDP that is comparable or higher than ours. This is a country that can pay for its own military defense, and I think that it's time that they do. Okay, any other questions here? Let me just scroll back through. There was a lot going on in here. Sorry. You're a proletariat who wants control over your work in government. Well, I think that as citizens, we should all want a government that is responsive, and actually represents the will of the people. And I think that that's all the control we really need. But I understand there are people who have more extreme views on the economy, and I understand we've been pushed to a breaking point, and that causes people to have very stark views. And I'm not going to say those are wrong, because they're not. It's just a different way of looking at our economy. And I think that we have to have everybody at the table in order to come up with the best ideas. And yeah, and the place, Oklahoma here, God, just capitalism. Let's just talk. It is runaway. This is not normal. Understand that. This is not a normal capitalist system. This is runaway uber capitalism. People like to talk about the invisible hand of the market. There's no such thing. It's very visible. It's the billionaires. It should look like, some kind of marionette that's being moved around, and you're not supposed to see the hands, but we know they're the ones that are messing with the system, that are tweaking things, that are rigging it. And there's no secret to it. This is by design. Yeah. And yeah, a lot of the problems that we have in society are because of greed. And capitalism inherently encourages greed, and exploitation of someone else. To get ahead, oftentimes you have to take advantage of someone else. And that in itself is a really inhumane system. I think that if you just looked at it objectively, you would say, okay, I know we have to do this right now, but God, why did we get here? Why can't we move past this to something that's more compassionate? That's something that's more civilized. If only we all had a ballroom. Oh my God, I know. I wake up and I just think, if my toilet was gilded, I could really get through the day so much better. So, I don't know. And again, that ballroom, suddenly it's super important now because, there was this incident. And again, where's the outrage when kids are getting killed? The president didn't even get shot, and kids will get murdered, and we don't talk about anything. And that's very frustrating. It's frustrating to me as a former teacher because that's why I left the classroom. I remember that was the breaking point when I went out to my car on the day that Sandy Hook happened, and I turned on my radio and I just could not leave the parking lot. I remember that so vividly, and that was the day I decided I'm not going to come back the next year. I just knew. And so this matters to me a great deal, and it just seems like we make a lot of a hubbub about old old white guys in politics who are getting shot at, and it matters. It absolutely matters that they're getting shot at, but can we talk about those little kids that are getting shot at who never got to vote on whether or not there was an assault ban, an assault weapons ban in this country? Can we talk about those little kids who never ever get to vote on whether or not people get to have those high magazine, can we just talk about that for a little while? Like, that's what I'm going to focus on. I'm not going to get sucked into talking about whether or not old privileged white guys feel unsafe in the country that they've created. Too fucking bad. Like, you did this, so fix it. If you don't like it, fix it. Hi Brian, I'm really glad you showed up. I'm sorry that I haven't gotten down to see you guys lately. I do hope to be there this Saturday, though. That's the military parade. If you guys are down in McAllister or the McAllister region this Saturday, I think it's the Armed Forces Parade down there. We're having some car issues. Listen, this world has been hard on me this week. Both of our cars are broken, and my internet was down until about 2 hours ago, and we didn't have that for 3 days. Like, I came about this close to just killing my husband, and just letting the cats eat us. I mean, it was just, oh. But anyway, hopefully we will have a car, and I will get down there to see you guys on Saturday. But that's the plan. Absolutely. I can't wait to march with you guys in that parade. Yeah, I wish that I could help you change the timing belt in your car. Honestly, if I knew how to do that, I would offer to do it just to show off. But I can't do anything with my car except, add fluids to it. And especially now that we've got a newer car, everything's electric, and it's very, I mean, it's not all electric. It uses gasoline, but it's just a much, much different thing when you open up the hood, than it used to be. So, yep, and there it is. Stacy put it in there, Armed Forces Day Parade, 10 a.m. Saturday in McAllister. So, be there. That's going to be a good time. I think, yeah, since the last week that I saw you guys, we had a forum down in Muskogee that was really great. If any of you guys were there, you got to see a lot of great candidates, a lot of really great speeches, I think. I know I connected with a lot of people. We gave out tons of signs. I was so, so excited. There's so much good energy down there in the Muskogee area. So that was really great. And then the very next day, we were in Oklahoma City at the All-In rally for the Oklahoma Democratic Party, where we were celebrating the fact that we have over 150 candidates running across the state. That's a huge, huge increase over recent years. There is so much energy. I know there are several people who have, followed this campaign, who are either running for or not Congress, but state house seats themselves, or they're super involved with other campaigns now. And that brings me a lot of pride, because I have said from the beginning, if you can't support one of these candidates 100%, you needed to become one of those candidates. And some of you actually listened to me, and that's really, really exciting. I think that there's just a lot of energy out there, and I want you to be really, really encouraged. Let's see here. Yeah, Stacy, it has been a great week, and it's going to be a great couple more months. There's a lot to look forward to. I know in Broken Arrow there's Rooster Days coming up. We will be there to march in that parade, and then also to be at the booth the same day that the parade takes place. There's going to be Sunfest here in Bartlesville. We will be at that booth. Hopefully, all 3 days we should have either myself or a volunteer there to see you guys. So please, please show up and talk to us. Duncan, Tishomingo, Kingston, not Duncan, Durant, I'm so sorry. Durant, Tishomingo, Kingston, those are all coming up in May as well. And then we're still hoping to have a forum scheduled here in Bartlesville with my primary opponent. And so there's a lot of opportunity for you guys to meet with us. And if there isn't something close by, reach out to us. There's no reason why we can't try to connect with a group in your area. So please let us know what's going on, where we can meet with you, what we can do to connect with you. We definitely want you plugged in. So excuse me. So that's everything that's kind of coming up. Check with our website. Turwayforcongress.com. It's got all of the information that you need. We're going to be posting our newest live stream every week directly to the website so that everything is a little more centralized. We're trying to get it together so that as we move from the primary season into the general election season, we are better positioned to get our information out there. So yes, Shrek's dad, I'm a Democrat here in Oklahoma. If you are a registered Democrat, you definitely want to show up on June 16th and vote in the primary. We're going to be voting on minimum wage increase too. Am I associated with AIPAC? Absolutely not. Nope, 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 not even a little bit. So if they gave me money, I would return it. Yeah. So anyway, make sure that you guys show up. The minimum wage increases on the ballot June 16th. In addition to all of these other primaries that you guys are going to want to vote in. There is a lot. Since there are so many Democrats on the ballot, you're probably unused to going during a primary and having a lot of things to vote on. So prepare yourself. This is going to be a new experience for you. You're going to have to actually take a few minutes in the ballot box and read through all of those people. And I hope it fills you with pride. I hope you absolutely are bursting with pride that there are so many people finally printed on your Democratic ballot. Are there any other questions? Let me look through, the things I wanted to talk about. We talk about it every week. Operation Epic Fury, spending so much money. It's ridiculous. We talk about all the things that we could buy in Oklahoma if we had just decided to resource bomb our state instead of literally bomb Iran. And so we could have funded our Indian Health Service for, oh my God, I said like 10 years or something. We could have expanded Medicaid to every single uninsured American for 4 years. Let's see here. We could have given Pell Grants to everybody in America, every college student in America for 2 years. Head Start for every eligible child in the country for 7 years. It's ridiculous. We could give every teacher in Oklahoma a $20,000 raise for a decade. This is the kind of stuff that transforms societies, and I think there's a huge difference between the kind of politicians who will talk about transforming a society instead of ones that will talk about erasing a society, and that's upsetting. Let me look over at these comments over here. How about guns make those laws? Yeah, and I would like for people that know about guns make those laws. Absolutely, elect those kinds of people. But clearly, right now, that's not happening. The people who know about guns, who respect guns, who want to see sensible gun legislation, they're not the ones who are being elected, and they are the ones who should be, because that's what America really wants. So I got a good question here, a non-political one. How are the fur babies? So Pancake's just laying over there right now. She's my little one-eyed kitty, just FYI. And she has a weird gum disease. She's not eating very well this week, but she did finally eat a dinner, so that's good. Link is my big old fat baby boy, and he's great. He's got a cleft palate, so he's got a weird lip, and he's got a really cute little scream that's almost silent, but it's really, really cute. And then I got my big old fat 15-year-old boy, Booger Bear, and that poor boy, he's just kind of getting old and um, bony. Yeah, I think he's just kind of, just what happens when they get old. So that's the update on the fur babies. Leah, I hope that sates you until next week. I think they're all doing really well. I had to bring them in earlier. It was hailing on those poor guys too who were trying to fix my fiber internet. Shout out to Dobson. I Those guys stood in the hail and were working on my internet. And I mean, listen, the cussing that I have done in this house, like towards Dobson for having my internet down because of rain. Folks, I don't know if you knew this, but if it rains too hard, your internet can just die. And that's what happened to ours. So 3 days, I was like, oh man, I'm going to switch. And then I watched those guys stand out there like heroes and absolutely take a beating for me. So we are going to stick with them. We're going to make sure that, we do our best to be as loyal to them as they were to us today. Thoughts on data centers? They're absolute polluting garbage neighbors. You don't want them in your community. They provide a very short-term amount of jobs. You never get the return on the investment that the communities usually extend in the form of tax incentives. And they end up using up all of your infrastructure. All of your electricity bills are going to go up. All of your water bills go up. And they pollute the air and the water around that area. I mean, it's incredible. It's something that we haven't even begun to scratch the surface of. So it's absolutely appropriate that we put the brakes on this until we can get more information and more regulatory oversight on these huge centers. And especially in this district, we have some of the highest rates of, not distribution centers, but data centers going into our district. That has to stop. It is too often the case that places that are economically disadvantaged are taken advantage of by big corporations later. And that's what's happening now. They have economically depressed this region, and now they're coming in and they are buying up our land. They are polluting our air, water, and land, and that's not acceptable. It's not acceptable. They're not paying their taxes. They're not paying their way. They're not good neighbors, and it's time that we do something about it. Thoughts on wind farms? I have pretty strong thoughts on green energy. I think that we are vulnerable right now to the volatility of the Middle East because we are absolutely slaves to fossil fuels. If we could just divorce ourselves from fossil fuels once and for all and move past this form of energy, we would see that we don't have to get involved in all of these wars. It would help us save an incredible amount of money. And so, yeah, wind farms, solar, all of these things are very beneficial, and I think that we need a lot more of it for sure. I am a candidate in this district. Oklahoma's Congressional District 2 will have its primary on June 16th. I do have a primary opponent, and then it will be on to the general election against what will likely be our incumbent Josh Burkeen. He's a strong candidate on the Republican side, for sure. CD2 does rock, and let me tell you, there's a lot of people who are really energized, really organized, and really excited to be out there campaigning in this cycle. So I think that you're going to see Democrats do some pretty incredible things, even in states like Oklahoma. Let's see here. Let me just check this over here. She says, I believe if we want to hold data centers accountable, we need to look at the industrial parks in general. You're absolutely right. Go look at the EPA website and see the toxins in your community. I would like to actually talk to you about this later, and I would love to have that conversation. I live just adjacent to a neighborhood that was cleaned up. It was a Superfund site here in Bartlesville. And when I say adjacent, I mean blocks from, if not, if this actually wasn't part of it, but it just blocks away from. And I used to live in that neighborhood, and it was cleaned up because of really intense lead poisoning in the soil there. And so, these are things that I know about. I am keenly aware of the outcomes of the people who live in those kinds of polluted areas, and it's really important that the EPA is not dismantled, that it's not defanged, that it's not defunded. In fact, that it is strengthened, that it is empowered to do more on our behalf, because I think that it's really clear our environment is being trashed. And we need some oversight to make sure that we stop it, because it's out of control, and we're running out of time to fix it. We have this idea that there's infinite time. There just isn't. There's not. Let's see here. Oh, and perhaps it is still a super fund. It might be. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, so I did not say that we need to support Israel, obviously. Um, no, just want to clarify that. Any other questions before? I just want to make sure I've got all of my notes covered here. I think we got it. The king is in town. I don't know if you guys saw that in Washington, D.C. I guess people care. Joshua King was tweeting about it. I mean, I think that the president could probably be working harder to open the Strait of Hormuz, but I suppose a dinner with the king is more important than your gas prices. So just when you go to bed tonight, just remember that you are taking one for the team. Don't worry. He's having a good time on your dime. Sorry. There are some kids screaming absolute bloody murder out there. That was scary. I thought maybe someone was in trouble, but now I hear that they're just playing. So, I haven't taken any APAC funding. Thanks for asking. And will the Thunder win the championship, Stacy? Why are you softballing them like that? Are you kidding me? This is in the bag. And I'm not saying that, out of faux bravado. They are so freaking good. Yeah, they are so freaking good. I can't wait for them to repeat. I just drove in, just this past week when we went to Oklahoma City, they had the sign up. It was the first time I had noticed that, home of the 2025 NBA champions. And I thought, yes, let's just add more and more and more years to that. Yes, SGA, MVP, come on. How could he not be? Give me a break. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, and we do have a super fun with Tar Creek over there. Oh, what is that name of that town? It's between here and Miami, right there by the border with Kansas. It's an absolute nightmare of a mess. That's got to be cleaned up. And why haven't we gotten more attention to that? Things like making sure that Grand Lake is nice and full, so that those houses have, the dock access for their boats. Never mind that it literally floods the city of Miami when they do that. They make sure of that. That's something that our representatives are keenly, actively involved in. But, cleaning up a toxic disaster site that literally got hit by a tornado, what do you think that did? To all of that toxic, literally mountains of just toxic waste just sitting out there. Come on, we got to clean that mess up. And that's not something that, you and your neighbors did. That's not something that, just happened on accident. That's industrial waste. That's corporations in action. And That's something that's still going on today, just in case you don't understand that. They're still polluting our lands. They're still taking advantage of our resources, and they're leaving us with the cleanup. And we got to do something about it while there's still time to do something about it. Oh, hey, hi, Troy. I see you there. Thank you guys all for coming. If you have any questions, put them down in the comments section. Pitcher, thank you. Oh, the name of that town is Pitcher. I knew somebody would know it. I could see the letter P, but I just could not get it. The Pitcher Gorillas, I think they were, or something like that. Anyway, any other questions tonight? We had some really good ones. Any other questions before we get off? Listen, I did an interview yesterday. No, not yesterday. Maybe yesterday. Yeah, with a great gal named Kelly Wise. She is with Leftist Leslie's. And it's hilarious that this is a great story. So I was at the Democratic fundraiser on Friday, and I got there early, and I thought, okay, I'm going to get good parking. I'm going to get in there. I got something to eat, and I thought I'm going to eat this, and then when everybody gets here, I will have already eaten, and I'll be able to walk around. And that was the perfect plan. It worked out perfectly. But while I was eating, I was kind of wallflowering it, just kind of standing there on the side. And Kelly kind of jumped over and was like, "Hey, I think I follow you." And we started talking. And she told me who she was. What she said, "I'm with this group." And I thought she said, "I'm with this group called Leftist Lizzie's." And I thought immediately in my head, now my mom's name is Elizabeth, okay? And so I immediately thought, oh my gosh, this sounds like the most fun podcast ever. There's supposed to be two women named Elizabeth, and they call themselves Lizzie's, or Lizzie, and and they're leftists, And I mean, in a split second, that's what I thought that this podcast was, and it wasn't until later. After we had talked about me coming on the thing and I had said goodbye and I talked to my campaign manager, that she said, "Eric, it's not leftist Lizzie's, it's leftist Leslie's." And I was like, "Oh, excellent," because I had no idea that she happened to be, a lesbian. And what's really funny about this is that when I went on her show, I talked about the fact that, I grew up as a gay kid, a poor kid, whatever. And she had no idea that I was gay before she asked me on her show. And so it was really hilarious that we kind of just, under radar, just kind of ran into each other, found family, and made a connection, which was hilarious. But we had a great hour-long chat. Oftentimes you don't get to hear me do long form interviews, ask a lot of get asked a lot of questions, or talk a lot about my life or my experience, and we got to do a lot of that. I will say there is some language. We were very casual with each other, so don't go listening to that with your kiddos. I did drop a few F-bombs, but those are the only kind of bombs I like to drop, so fear not. It's pretty innocuous, but it's a great podcast episode. I'm really proud of the stuff that we talked about. I listened to it myself today just to make sure I didn't say anything completely stupid, and when I was listening to it, I thought, my God, I only wish that there had been a candidate who was saying these things that I could have voted for without having to run this race myself. That's the only thing that could have made all of this more perfect, as if I didn't have to do it. I'm one of those reluctant candidates. And that reminded me of that. I was like, wow, dang it. But then I remembered I get to be that candidate for someone else. And that is really motivating, and it's really gratifying. I feel really, really edified doing this work. So thank you to everybody who has contributed to our campaign. Thank you to everyone who's reached out to find out how you can help and support us. We still need more volunteers. If you are motivated to come and help us, please reach out and say, hey, Eric, I don't know how I could help, but I really want to help you. You've got a message that resonates with me, and I want to do something. Just send us a message. DM us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, anywhere that you can find us. I promise, if it exists besides Truth Social, we're probably on it. So go find us wherever it is that you consume your, political content, and reach out. If you can't find us there, go to turwayforcongress.com, and I promise there's a form there where you can sign up to get email alerts, where you can sign up to get text alerts when we start sending those, where you can sign up to be a volunteer, and if you've got the funds, where you can go to donate. So we've got our donate button there. Do click it if you've got a few extra dollars. They really go a long ways. We're about to start sending out some text messages, and we're missing a few $1,000s, honestly, in our budget. We've done a really good job of planning for our different milestones and making sure that we were feeling like we were in a good place as we move through this election cycle. But I do have to admit, we are about $2,000 short of where we would like to have been at this point, which isn't really, in the grand scheme of things, that much money. So we are going to be asking for a little bit of help. And if there's anything, if you've got $5 or $10, if you can throw it our way, we really appreciate it. If you have even more than that, again, this goal that we have is to send text messages to about 65,000 voters here in Congressional District 2. And again, we're just lacking a little bit of funding to complete that order. So if there's any way you guys can help out, we'd really, really appreciate it. We're always transparent with how we spend our money, and we don't talk about it a lot because honestly, we don't spend a lot of money. We're just one of those campaigns. We want it to be shoestring budget. We want you to understand that we know that things can be operated very, very efficiently. And when we go to Washington, we intend to force Congress to do things like that too. So please help out if you can. We'd really like to get there. June 16th is the primary, and then November 3rd is the general election. I'm not seeing any other questions, so I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for coming out tonight. I appreciate it. Have a good night, and I will see you guys next week. Remember, 7:30 every Tuesday, same time, same place, Facebook, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, and anything else we can add in the meantime. So I will see you guys next week. Have a good one.